Good morning, friends. Stephen Ben-Nun here with Israeli News Live, and I mentioned to you yesterday that Israel and the U.S. had coordinated a large-scale attack on Iran-backed militias there inside of Syria, and Amman is also reporting that. They actually reported it yesterday. I don't know if any of the mainstream media is reporting this as of yet. I haven't really seen anything that myself thus far, but said the head of the Israeli National Security Research Institute, Major General Amos Yadlin, said that behind its bombing of Syria's Azor governorate, Tel Aviv wanted to convey a message to Iran. In a statement to Israel's official Khan news channel, Yadlin said that the attack carried out by Israel and Azor governorate is important, and the message to Iran that Israel will not stop working against Iran and Syria even during the era of U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. So that's the message that is being conveyed over to Iran as they continue their strikes inside of Syria there. And according to one Israeli journalist, said that it's the largest attack Israel has done since 2018. And when he gave me the report that he had 54 had been killed in that airstrike, from what I was understanding there. Also, Sputnik was reporting the U.S.-Israeli intelligence reportedly closely coordinated massive airstrikes on Syria. That's where it also kind of shows the U.S.'s involvement. I had one source also confirming that the U.S. was involved in those airstrikes as well. So something that still I have not found any article that supports that, but that's what we were being told, that the U.S. Was involved in the airstrikes that were going on inside of Syria. Just as a reminder, though, General Wesley Clark and what he said, and I'll play that little clip there for you, because I think it's always a good
About
reminder.
10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to...
So you got to go, as it goes on into this here, he talks about that they were going to take down 7 nations in 5 years.
He said, "I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me."
All right. See there, and finishing off with Iran. I think that's where we're headed to as of right now. They're getting ready to finish off with Iran. And, of course, they claim that Joe Biden would not be supportive of that. So it's kind of interesting how things are changing, even on the ground. This here came out from Amman News as well. Large U.S. military convoys enter Syria from neighboring Iraq. Says here that U.S. convoys seen entering northeastern Syria on Wednesday, marking the second time in 5 days that an international coalition has brought in reinforcements and supplies. According to local reports, dozens of U.S. military trucks and vehicles entered Syria's Al-Hasaq governorate via the Al-Wadi crossing that links the Levantine nations with Iraq's Nineveh governorate there. So the U.S. convoy was said to have consisted of several vehicles that was transporting both troops and supplies, primarily military and logistics, to one of their bases inside the Syrian territory. But notice it is troops as well that were being brought in. So it's not that there is a scale down in this area, but a buildup. And Secretary Pompeo putting out this tweet here: I traveled to the KSA, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Morocco, and Sudan, all with one goal in mind: peace. Well, these are the allies that would actually help carry out a war in that region. Why Sudan? Because of Yemen. All right. Why? Well, Morocco, different issue altogether, but Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates, KSA, all these countries right here. Why these countries here? Because they would actually help spearhead a war against Iran. And of course, the intelligence we were getting from Iran is that if Iran goes down, one thing they would still be able to carry out would be the attack that would destroy Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates would be their target. And then confirming that also out of Washington, they included Qatar as what Iran would try to take out, because as they said there in Washington, that they are considered traitors by Iran, and therefore those nations would be taken out of the scene there. So anyway, Pompeo is also now alleging that Al-Qaeda has a new home base in Iran, which is kind of odd because it seems like U.S., Israel, Saudi Arabia, Turkey are all been backing Al-Qaeda inside of Syria to try to overthrow President Bashar al-Assad. So now playing the card that Al-Qaeda has a new home base in Iran, and then linking that to the 9/11 incident, which everybody knows more about what that incident really is kind of interesting. But Iran is not backing down. Iranian militias respread in Syria after the Israeli raids. At least 57 pro-Iranian fighters were killed in the Israeli airstrikes on the area from the Azor to Abu Kamal Desert there. That's the report that is coming out on this Arabic alarabia.net. And Israel also was reporting 54 deaths through the sources that we have out of Israel there. So a lot of strange things happening. Now, this particular video here I thought was of interest as well. This is the Iranian military right here, and they're flying above as they're doing their naval drills. And I don't know how well you can see this below there, but that is the USS Georgia. Look at the length of that submarine passing up underneath that. There's a little boat right there, but that's the USS Georgia right there passing underneath. Massive U.S. submarine, and it is equipped with 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles there that are also nuclear capable. This was right at the Strait of Hormuz. So there's a lot of things that are going on, and we're going to be trying to cover as much as we possibly can. I think there are certain things that they just don't want you to know about right now. So, got to keep that in mind. We're trying to sort things out. There's a lot of weird things going on. So we're trying to sort out a lot of things because different intel is reporting different issues right now. And I'm just going to try to way through all this to see what we can figure out. This article here on Real Raw News comes out. Marine Corps rebukes Pelosi. We don't work for you. That was an interesting thing there. Said a Pentagon source speaking under promise of anonymity told Real Raw News that Pelosi contacted General Berger late Monday night, and she besieged him to commit 5,000 troops to help ensure peaceful transition of power and to prevent a repeat of January 6th siege on the Capitol. General Berger, our source, didn't understand why Pelosi needed additional soldiers to augment an already impressive force assembled by the federal and state officials. That force included 15,000 National Guard from D.C., Delaware, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and underscored the number of FBI DHS agents who arrived in D.C. Sunday night. Pelosi said she wanted battle-ready reinforcements because of radicalized Trump supporters and kooky QAnon conspiracy people were about to converge on D.C. She implored him to reconsider, arguing that it was the general's patriotic duty to quell uprisings and guarantee Biden's ascension to the Oval Office. Her statement made the general explode. Our source said, "Don't lecture me on patriotism, Madam Speaker. I've served this country with distinction for 40 years. I've spilled blood for our nation. What have you, a self-serving elected official, done for your country?" General Berger said. Pelosi further enraged him by saying he was answerable to Congress. I only answer to the president. I understand it. Donald J. Trump is still president and commander-in-chief. Abide in the Constitution as it is written, not your interpretation of it, General Berger admonished Pelosi. Quoting of a source, when her intimidation tactic failed to sway the General Berger, Pelosi tried different tactic, begging and flattery. At any rate there, it's very difficult to know exactly what's going on, friends. I think the situation is very fluid right now. And I'm also wondering, even if some of the things that we have lately reported is to try to keep the people more calm so that the people don't try to take matters in their own hands. So that I could probably understand. So we'll just kind of leave it at that. We will follow the things. And I think more so as things play out, then we can kind of get a better idea of what's going on and see what's going to happen there. The situation, I think, though, in Iran is very explosive right now as well. And about the only way I can see the U.S. really getting into a war with Iran before Trump leaves office is in the event that some type of strike is made on U.S. troops. So that's a very big concern for me as well. But anyway, Pompeo's definitely already gearing up, though, that support. And so I just a suspicion. Can't say it's the case, but just a suspicion. I have a feeling something's going to go down. I'm Steve Benoot with Israeli News Live. Good day.